Everybody hear me okay? In the back, can you guys hear everything okay? Perfect. Okay, first off, excited to be here. So this is my first year coming to the show. I want to introduce myself briefly, and then I kind of want to get into kind of the whole meat of what I want to discuss today. My name's Josh Sutherland. I live in eastern Idaho. Who's ever been to Yellowstone? 2 hours from my house. Grizzly bears, it's awesome. Luckily, we've never ran into one. It was kind of interesting when I decided to move to Idaho. I lived in southern Utah. I grew up in St. George, lived in southern Utah my whole life. Met my wife on a blind date from her ex-boyfriend, which was interesting. And we lived in Utah, and I told my wife, I'm like, I don't want to live in Utah because there's so many people, and you couldn't, like all the cities are like right on the highway, so you try to get anywhere, and it's just like roadblock for days. And I told my wife, I'm like, I want to move to Idaho because I love the mountains, I love outdoors, I like ride dirt bikes, fish, hunt, all that. So I had like a presentation for her, and I went and showed her, and I was like, look, it's only 6 degrees on average colder in Idaho, where I want to move, than it is in Salt Lake, where we lived. But then I realized that difference is enough to where the snow never melts, right? So if it's 28 degrees versus 35 degrees, snow doesn't melt, right? And so we move up, though, worst winter in 99 years. I had 3.5 feet of snow in my yard for like 6 months. And then this winter was absolutely terrible also. And I was just explaining to these ladies over here, I had snow, it snowed October 29th as I left to go to Quilt Market. Who went to Quilt Market? So I went there, and we went to go watch my daughter's first high school softball game in April, and we still had snow on the ground. It was the worst year of my life. So it's nice to see, and then the 1 year I leave to go to VDTA this year is like the first day it was over 60 and I had to leave. So, but anyway, so that's my background. And so, but today I want to go over a few things. My company is called Sewing Back Media. I started the company 7 years ago with a few partners of mine, and these ladies up here asked me how I got started and what the vac is. And so one of my good friends is national sales manager for a vacuum manufacturer. He came to me and he goes, hey, we really struggle to find vendors to help our dealers that do a good job. And he's like, I know you I worked for a company called SEO.com. I was their VP of sales and marketing. And we worked with huge companies like Logitech, Dell, Hotels.com. And I was working there and I hated it. And he's like, well, maybe you guys should start working in our industry. So we started Sewing Back Media, and within 6 months we all quit and left. And then we've been doing this ever since. For the first year or two, we were primarily in vacuums because that's where our connections were. And then slowly we transitioned to sewing, and that's pretty much all we do now. And then now we've kind of transitioned to not only helping dealers like that sell machines, we also now help smaller quilt shops, fabric stores, and things like that to be able to just be better online. And everything's changing, and especially the pandemic, where it forced you guys to close your stores and not allow that a lot of dealers were able to pivot and then not have much of a change in revenue, and then some got hurt really bad, right? And so today my whole goal is to be able to share enough information with you that you can take, if you follow even just some of the very few basic things that I'm going to talk about today, it can greatly positively impact your business. And so that's what I want to go over, and going to kind of go through. I like it to be super personal and interactive. I didn't know I was up here in just like my living room, so I'm going to stand down here so I can talk and hand out the microphone and stuff. So if you have questions, I hate to just talk and yell at people. So if you have a question or something isn't clear, please speak up, because I want to address them and talk with them and even give examples, specific examples of how this stuff works for you guys. Okay? Okay. So the main thing that I'm going to focus on today is going to be utilizing Facebook, right? So how do we utilize Facebook? Now, the great thing about this industry is it's a hobby industry, correct? Who would agree with me? It's a hobby industry, right? And so what do people like to do with their hobbies? They share them, right? Like we go ride dirt bikes, so we'll go down to Moab. Who's ever been to Moab? So we'll get like a bunch of old middle-aged men, and we go to Moab, and then it's terrible because we try to like show off to our friends and who can like try to go up the big cliff. And then we go home and we share it with everybody, right? We get on our Facebook channels and we want to show like, look at this cliff I went up on my dirt bike, right? And so that's exactly how your guys' customers are. They're passionate about sewing, they're passionate about quilting, and so they want to show it. And the good thing is they go to an area on Facebook or a app like Facebook where it's so easy to be able to get in front of them, to find out what they're doing and what their interests are, and then to show them
The stuff that they already want. Does that make sense? It's super simple. And then, ironically, I've been speaking at VDTA, Baby Lock Tech. I've went to SVP. I mean, you name. I've spoken Quilt Market all over. And for the last 5 or 6 years, I've preached the same like simple strategies, and it never phases me. Over 80% of the people I talk to this day, still are not implementing even the most fundamental principle that I'm going to cover today, right? So if you just do this, what we're going to talk about today, it will greatly impact your business, whether you're trying to drive traffic to your store, like door swings, or whether you're trying to grow a Facebook account or a Facebook profile and sell online. So that's what we're going to go over today. So when you look at Facebook, you look at the share of users. I'm assuming that most of our target audience is probably, what, 45 to 80-year-old female. Is that right? Would that be accurate? Sometimes you have smaller, like cosplayer, different things like that, or you live in a more different area that maybe attracts a different demographic. The cool thing is, like, she's not her head because I'm assuming you're one of those. The cool thing is once you know that, it's easy to change your marketing, right? Like, if this is the type of person you want to try to get in front of, it's easy to do, right? But if you look at it, so this is percentage of users that fall in this age group, right? So if you look here, share of users, so 11.1% of individuals 55 to 64, and 11.1% of 65 plus are Facebook users, right? They're your grandmas, your grandpas. Does that make sense? Like, those are the people that are on Facebook, right? And so, and the cool thing is, right now, the average income on Facebook is $70,000, right? Which is good because we want people to buy stuff, right? And so they have money, they're on a place where we can find them, and we know how to actually focus on them. I get questions all the time, do we do Instagram? Yes, we do, but Instagram average demographic is 18 to 32, right? And they're kids, right? I mean, they're fun because I send memes and reels back and forth to my buddies all day long, and it's entertaining, and we love it. But we don't do a lot of revenue with our clients on Instagram compared to Facebook. So most of what I'm going to talk about today is going to be Facebook related. Not that I'm saying don't have an Instagram presence, because we have baby boomers and the demographic is constantly changing, right? And so it's always good to be able to make sure that you're prepared to pivot and adapt. So if you look at kind of how these networks work, we have Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, and so you can kind of see the most popular ones, and then daily time spent, 2.5 hours a day, right? I had to turn off that, like, my phone that told me how many hours I spend on it because it was depressing. I'm like, I don't need to hear from you. And so I just turned it off. But I mean, it's definitely, a lot of time. And some of the stuff we'll talk about today deals with YouTube, because not only is YouTube considered a social network, it's also the #2 largest search engine, right? And so people get on, I do it all the time. I'll be like, 2001 Dodge Ram right front tire making weird noise, right? And then I'm out there yelling at my daughter because she's not holding the flashlight right when I'm trying to fix my truck, right? And so that's the same thing that people do. Whether they're looking for a machine, they will go to YouTube and they will Google it. If they're looking for a quilt pattern or an educator or something like that, they'll go to YouTube. And the problem is sometimes they're not finding what they should be finding when they're looking for you, right? So we want to control that message, and we want to control what people find when they're looking, okay? So Facebook groups, and these, I made this, like, this is crazy. So I made these little things in here like 6 years ago. So I mean, some of these probably have 4 or 5 times these, right? Some of these Facebook groups, who gets involved in Facebook groups on Facebook? Some of them have hundreds of thousands of users, right? In fact, I'll have a quilt store owner will come to me, and she'll have like 37,000 followers, and I'll be like, well, what are you doing to like make money off? Because that's what we're here for, right? Like, we're not here just to like have this following. Nothing, right? They're not doing anything. And it's like, and it's so frustrating because I'm like, you're sitting on this gold mine of opportunity and you're not doing anything, right? And so that's what we're going to cover today, is how do we do stuff and how do we make it work? So the #1 thing we're going to talk about is, make sure this is it, is Facebook setup. Now, the two things is, it used to be Facebook Business Manager, and now it's called the Meta Business Suite. Who knows for sure they have that on their account? Okay, if you don't know, go to a browser, log into your Facebook, open up another tab, and then type in business.facebook.com. If you have Facebook Business Manager, it will automatically log you in. If you don't, then follow the processes to get set up, right? So the one issue that we love the most with Facebook setup, with the Facebook Business Manager, Meta Business Suite, is it allows you to control access. Because every time we'll bring like a new client on, it's like, yeah, Julie, who used to work here 9 years ago, started their Facebook account, and then we fired her because she stole from you know what I'm saying? And it's like this nightmare of like trying to get access. So if you have Facebook Business Manager, you guys can control who has access to everything you're doing. So when we get it set up with people, they don't give us username or passwords. They just add us as a user, and then if we ever stop working with each other, they just turn my access off and it's over, right? I can't do anything. Another example, I got a text at like 3 in the morning from a client, and I was like, this is great. I wonder what this is about. And he just got a bill for $10,000 from Facebook. And there was some rogue account that he didn't know about that had been running a Facebook ad campaign till it hit $10,000 and sent him a bill, right? Because he didn't have everything organized where he needed to be so he can manage everything, right? And then by doing that, you know, you can know what's happening in your account and how everything's working. The biggest thing we're going to talk about today is the Facebook Pixel. So this is the thing I'm talking about. If this is the only thing you guys learned today is the Facebook Pixel, and that's what we're going to talk about. So Business Suite, as I talked about, you can manage users, partners, accounts, ad accounts, everything, right? So everything is ran through here. A lot of people, we'll kind of go over this. I don't want to jump ahead, so we'll kind of talk a little bit about this, but then we're going to talk more about boosting and some different things here in a bit that I don't want to jump too far ahead. But this is how you want to have it set up. So that way, if you hire a new girl who's going to manage your social media, you just add her as a user, right? And then that way she can do it, and then if something happens, you can just get rid of it, and then she doesn't have access anymore, right? Okay. So the Facebook Pixel. So who here knows what the Facebook Pixel is? Who doesn't know? Okay, so this is mind-boggling to me when I say that. Does that make sense? So this is how important it is. So what the Facebook Pixel does is, if I go to, so who said they didn't have it? Raise your hand one more time. You. I'm going to pick on you here in the front. Okay. So if I pull up your website and I go to it, you have a Facebook account too, correct? Okay. So you have a Facebook account and you have a website. When I go to your website and I'm spending time on that website and I'm going to your quilting patterns, I'm going to your class that you're going to do. Let's say you're bringing an educator in to do an event or something, right? And I'm on on your website. That pixel is following me around to everything that I'm doing on your webpage, right? Now, why would that be important? Because down the road, if you decide to market to me, you can say, oh, I want to find people that look, act, and behave like X, Y, and Z, that went to X, Y, and Z page on my website because those are relevant products what I'm trying to sell, and I want that person to see this ad. Does that make sense? So now we already know that perfect example is who goes and search for something, or you go to like a website, you look at something, you go to Facebook, and you see ads popping up from that company. That's what they're doing. They got a pixel, and they're following you around. Yes. Hold on. I got the microphone. That's why I got it. So yeah, if you do have a question, let me know.
So I use the Square retail system, and I can't put a pixel from, on Square and Weebly. I can't put a pixel on there from Facebook. Any thoughts on that?
So are you referring to, I think I know your question. So are you referring to you have a Square, you're using the payment system, Square? Okay, and then you have that's your email or your website. So you should, Zach, you can, 100% you can. Come and talk to us. Yeah, come and talk to us. But so for example, who uses Like-So websites? Okay, so they're in they're in Utah too, but we had to work with them directly to get them to fix a lot of their payment processing, because when they first were doing it, as Facebook was rolling this stuff out, it wouldn't track conversions, which is hard because it's like if you're spending a bunch of money on Facebook ads and you don't know if what's converting, it's like, well, how do we know what we're doing with our money, right? And that's another thing with the Pixel too, is it tracks conversions, right? And so the Facebook Pixel is huge because if you're selling a machine, a product, a service, anything, you can target very, very, very specific demographics and people. For example, like you can run an ad if you're going to go to a quilt show in your town or in a town next to you. You can run an ad in a geo-targeted area based on a thing saying, hey, Josh's sewing store is going to be at this quilt show. Come and see us, right? Or if you want to make some bundles, where we have one client of ours that'll make little fabric, little kits and stuff that she sells. And then when she runs an ad, that's what we're doing. We're targeting the people that have normally bought that. Does that make sense? And so the one thing, if you don't have a Facebook Pixel, email whoever's in charge of your website, whoever does it. It literally takes like 2 or 3 minutes to get set up, okay? It's super simple. And even if you're not planning on utilizing Facebook ads right now, if it's running, it's going to be capturing data. So if it runs for a year and then you decide to run ads, then when you run these ads, now all of a sudden you have all this data. Does that make sense? That you can pull from and run better ads. So when we first started doing this, it was a big sewing machine dealer, and our ads for like the first 6 months were terrible because we had no data, right? And then now you fast forward 3 years, he'll spend $20,000 on Facebook ads and we'll sell $180,000 worth of stuff. We have one ad that's, oh, is that me? Oh. I was like, my voice ain't that loud. It is, hopefully, right? Like low, manly. But so we have one ad that runs nonstop for a dealer. That's it. One stop, it sells one sewing machine. Runs nonstop all year long. He spent $96,000 in like 3.5 years on it, and it sold almost $500,000 worth of machines. It just runs nonstop. And we have dealers that'll do like smaller stuff, right? Where they'll make kits, like, hey, here's our top 5 selling kits that we're selling this month, right? And then they'll present them on the ad, and then the next month we'll do it again, and we'll do something different, right? And so if you don't have the Facebook pixel, our booth is 938, so if you need advice or anything on how to get that set up, but I'm like, when I ask that and no one knows, it's mind-boggling. And it's like, because if you guys want to make money online, social media is the way to do it, and you're dragging an anchor if you don't have a Facebook pixel, okay? Any questions on the pixel? Sorry, ask your question.
So I'm curious how often you update your pixel, or if it updates itself.
It's just a thing. Yeah, it's just a piece of code on your website. So a lot of people, they feel like they said, oh, I have a pixel, but it's just like the link that you click that takes you to Facebook. Does that make sense? That's not a pixel. The pixel is a piece of code. So I download an extension on my computer, so if I pull up a website, the Chrome extension will tell me if that website has a pixel, right? And so I can go, and you'll be crazy. I mean, I'll talk into companies that do $15, $20 million in sales and they don't have a pixel. It's mind-boggling, right? Like mind-boggling. So get that done like immediately, because it will make a gigantic difference for what you're doing. So, okay, I'm going to go on. Any questions? Okay. So this is just an example of one of our dealers that sells a lot of fabric and stuff online. But this is a Facebook shop. Who has their Facebook shop set up? So perfect. So Facebook shop is awesome, because instead of having these like tacky bit.ly links and stuff like that to properties or to products, like if you're giving like a live ad that because we do a ton of video ads, that's what converts really well. So if you're doing a video that's like 8-9 minutes and you're doing like a live video, and then sometimes we'll do a live video and then we convert that live video to our ad. Does that make sense? And so, but as that live video is happening and you're saying, hey Josh, this is Josh's 1, 2, 3, 4, then we can tag that on the shop and people can just click on it right during the middle of the video and go straight to the product and purchase it, right, from your site. And so that's great, because if you're going to try to give a demo and you have 8 or 9 products that you want to talk about, like quilt stuff or their designs or whatever it is, and you're going to be doing it for 8 or 9 minutes and you're going to have 10 products, you don't have to, does that make sense? You don't have to go in and do it all. You can have them all tagged, and you probably see it who sees that when you go to watch a video? You'll probably see it on Facebook and Instagram. And so that's one thing you can set up, and it works immensely well. Any questions on that? Facebook shops. And so it's going to be free, I believe, until October of next year. And then Facebook's for sure going to start making money off of it. So how to use, hold on, that ruined my mojo. Okay, how to use your Facebook page. So right now, who is utilizing their Facebook page just by posting organically on their feed right now? Okay, I would say, is that the majority of people? Okay, and your engagement when you post organically is probably fairly low, right? Engagement fairly low organically. Okay, and so once I always tell individuals, when you're looking from a website perspective or you're looking at a Facebook page, I always ask, well, what is the purpose of this? Because that defines on how then you're going to use it, right? Because it's like, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Okay, well, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, if you're going to do X, Y, and Z, then this needs to be set up in this manner, right? Or else it's not going to work. And so I always ask people, if you're going to try to make money off your Facebook, then, and I'm assuming all of us want to make money on Facebook, right? Which is why we're here. That's what we're going to go over today, is how to set it up, make sure everything's ready to go, and most importantly, how to use your Facebook. So first off, this is what we want, right? Like, this is what we want at our stores or on our online store, right? We want new customers. That's the whole goal. So a lot of ways that we've helped dealers utilize Facebook and store shop owners to do it, educational events and classes, Facebook and Instagram ads are obviously the 2 main ones that I'm going to talk about today, right? And so, and a lot of you, you know, when you have classes or events and different things like that, there's a lot of stuff we can do. The cool thing is it's just strategizing like what you have coming up and what you want to sell. And I know a lot of what you do is seasonal, right? Like we're doing different things for summer, spring, holidays, different things like that. So there's a lot of ways. It's just being prepared and understanding how to do it. So, I mean, we've done like tons of Kimberbell events. These are just examples of events that we've helped a lot of dealers do. And then obviously a lot of this stuff can just be your own stuff too, right? It can be your own event that you're doing, something small, however you want to do it, right? So the big thing is just being able to have Facebook ad campaigns. And I just put this one up here because I don't know who these people are, but for a while I was seeing their ad like crazy because they were targeting me because I own Sewing Back Media and I'm always on sewing stores, so they assume that I'm like the perfect guy, right, for them. And so that's what we're going to talk about is how to do it, and a lot of it is going to be video, right, because that's what we focus on almost exclusively is video, right? So on a landing page layout, so this is the number, I would say Facebook Pixel is number 1 and then this is number 2. So who's ever gone to a website like when you're trying to buy something and you look at it and you're like, oh my God, that is terrible. Who's ever thought that in your mind, right? And I do it all the time because I live on websites, right? And there's times like with me and the experience that I have, and I'm on Facebook and I'm on websites all day long, if I can't figure it out, do you think Susie, 73 years old, living in suburban Nebraska is going to figure it out? No, she's not. Does that make sense? And so the one thing we want to figure out is if we're going to spend money and time and effort to drive traffic somewhere, it better convert when it gets there. Does that make sense? Like it better convert. Because I always tell people there's multiple ways to create revenue. You can either increase your conversion rate with the same amount of traffic that you're getting right now, which a lot of times is easier than getting more traffic, right? But then most importantly, if we're going to sit down and we're going to run a campaign, so what you guys need to do is look as shop owners, is like, okay, if I'm going to do something, I want to make sure that when I do spend money, whether that's $5 or whether that's $10,000, I want to make sure that when it gets to the final destination, that it's going to convert, right? So when we talk about how we do this, we don't do entire websites, we do pages, right? Who's heard like SEO? SEO is a big term, Facebook. We don't SEO websites, we don't market websites, we market pages, right? Like that's what we do. So if we want to sell machines or we want to sell this or that, whatever it is, there's a specific landing page that we're trying to sell. That's where we want. So what we'll want to do is look at how does our content look, right? One thing I always recommend is find the people in your industry who do really well and learn from them, right? Like go look at what they're doing, how they're doing it, how their websites are built. If your website sucks and it takes forever to load and people can't figure, and there's like 9 clicks to purchase, right? Those are all things that limit your conversion, right? And so do we have good content? Do we have product descriptions? The one thing that a lot of people do is they, you know, if you're working with a vendor or something and they're just sending you product descriptions and you're uploading them, unfortunately, if you have 6,000 other quilt shop owners that are doing the same thing, it's the same content that everybody else is seeing. Does that make sense? So I'd recommend adding it, changing it, personalizing it a little bit. One really big thing that we do is YouTube demo videos. And so the cool thing about when you're running campaigns like this is it's really cost effective. If we're going to spend money to make ads and videos and different things like that, it's nice to be able to use it across multiple platforms to get multiple benefit instead of just sinking cost into just one ad. So a lot of times we'll run like an ad and then we'll take that video and take that same video and embed it on the website, and then we'll also put it on YouTube, right? And so that way we're getting multiple benefit from the same video. And it's great too because a lot of times, you know, who's ever gone down the rabbit hole on YouTube for something, right? It's like 4 in the morning, you don't even realize it, right? But you can click on it and take you to the website, right? So it's referral traffic. We're having a big funnel. Someone gets on your quilting shop page and you're talking about something. Then they click on your website and then they get to your website and then now they're going around looking at different stuff on your website. But then what do we have on our website? Our pixel, right? So now our pixel's on our website, so now they're on the website, and now we're getting all that data. Does that make sense? And so we're capturing all, I mean, it's super creepy, but it's good for you guys, right? Because we're trying to make money, right? And that's the benefit behind it. And then also calls to action. There's different, like we always say when we run ad campaigns, I mean, obviously we want to get a deal, because I've even fell into it. I'm like, man, if I spend $30 more, I save $4 on shipping, right? Which is ridiculous, like in your mind when you think about it. But I do it, right? And then so we have we want to create like a deal. So that's one thing we always ask is, what's your offer? Like, what's our offer? What are we offering to get them to do something, right? Okay. Any questions on landing page layout or anything like that? Hold on.
Thank you. Can you speak a little bit as to how product descriptions help enrich your landing page?
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few different when I talk about product descriptions, which would be kind of tied into like good content. When you look at a web page, there's a few things that work. And now we're not really talking SEO, but I will give one bit of advice because Zach's our in-house SEO expert. But when you look at a page, there's a few different things you have. You have like what's referred to as a title tag. Okay, who knows what a title tag is? Ever heard that? Okay, so a title tag is what is like the chapter heading of whatever that page is about, right? So I always ask people, it's like, okay, well, if I was to ask you, this page on your website, what is it about? And they'll be like, oh, well, it's about my store and I do this, and then I look at the title tag and it says home. So when Google gets to that page and it goes and crawls for data to find out what's going on, home. That's not what it's about. Does that make sense? It's about Josh's sewing shop in Idaho Falls, right? That's what it is. Like, or quilt store, fabric store, that's what it is. So it's just one other part of like product descriptions is, and then also within that, product descriptions is meta description. So a meta description is if you do a search term and then the search results pull up, right? And you'll see the link, then you'll see the content underneath the link, that's your meta description, right? Which you want to have good meta descriptions to help increase click-through. Does that make sense? So people want to, that meta description encourages people to click the link because you're like, Josh offers the best deals in Eastern Idaho, blah, 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 or whatever I want to write. Does that make sense? Now on a product description, and I think product descriptions are going to be more relevant for like machines. Does that make sense? Where you're trying to, because everybody's selling the same Janome 123, and then they got that same piece of content on however many websites, right? And so, but I would just have good content, good product description about the product and what it represents. So, did that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. So, there's a big difference between running our Facebook on apps and then the Facebook Pages app. So, everybody probably recognizes this stuff, right? Okay. So, what we want to do is, I highly recommend if you're going to run ads, don't do it. So whoever sees it, like when you're sitting there and you look at a post and it's like, boost this post, whoever does that, and you click on the post and then you pay like $20 or whatever, right? And it's super like very limited in your options to be able to do stuff. So when you do things through like the Facebook Business Manager, Ads Manager, the Meta Suite and all that, there's so much more that you can do based on utilizing it online. Now, like what we're going to kind of go over now is kind of like going to be kind of out in the deep water. So I understand, like I don't expect that at some point just in everything, like you get to the point where you have to get more knowledge if you want to do it on your own. Does that make sense? Like, so like if you're just doing like simple boosting and things like that, you guys are probably capable. Now, if you wanted to learn how to do more of the detailed stuff, you can 100% do it. It's just going to require time and effort on you guys to watch classes and get educated or hire somebody who could do it, right? And so, but that's what we're going to go over today. We're going to kind of get in the deeper water. Okay, so, and this is what's cool when we tie into our target audiences, right? Okay. Oh, dang it, I always do that. Okay, so when we come in and we look at target audiences, we can do things based off of like interest, demographics, location, behaviors, customer lists, and lookalike audiences. Now, we do all of these for all sorts of different types of stores, right? And so to kind of give you an example of a little bit of how they work, I mean, this is an example of just an ad that can be ran, right? So you could be details, living in this, you know, this area, Duluth, Sandy Springs, Georgia. Here's our age, here's our female people who match interests, this, and this, and this, right? So this is an example of targeting that we can do in one of our ads, right? Hold on, I want to talk about some of this stuff here before we get into that other stuff. Okay, so the one thing that we really like and it works really well, who collects emails from customers? Okay, so we do what's called a lookalike audience. Now, the big key is when you look at like lifetime value of a customer, for some of like our dealers that sell machines, that can be like 200 grand, right? Obviously, when you're not selling machines, it can be less, but it can still be substantial, right? And so when I look at how do we market, how do we do stuff, you have to look at it from, okay, if I bring one customer in, I have to realize that that person is then worth $50,000 to me over the course of their life. Does that make sense? And so each individual that I could potentially bring in is going to help my store grow exponentially, right? And so that's the mindset that you have to look at is, okay, so I need new customers because I don't want to just stagnate with the existing ones. But at the same time, a lot of times if you're just posting on Instagram or posting on Facebook, you're already talking to the people who know you and who are going to do business with you anyway, right? So we want to find new people. And one thing that's really nice that we can do, and this is someone that we can do to do new customer offers without angering our existing base. Because who's ever done a sell and then Julie comes in and she's like, well, I didn't get 10% off, right? And so we can help you do things like that without doing that in front of people. So one thing that we'll do a lot is like a lookalike audience. So I'll go to you, Tiffany, and I'll say, hey, we're going to run a campaign, and here's our strategy. Here's what we decided we're going to do. And then I'll say, okay, give me a list of your customers, right? So you'll give me a customer list, and now it can be like every customer, or it can be like an event list that we're trying to do. However we want to figure it out, but we get a list, and then we tell Facebook, we say, hey, we upload it into our Facebook Ads Manager, and Facebook will go out and find everybody on that list that has a Facebook account. And then it'll mosh them all together, and it'll come to us and say, Tiffany, this is what your average, now it's not, we don't see this, but that's what it's doing. Does that make sense? It says, this is what your average customer looks like, right? This is them. So then what we'll do then at that point is we can go out and say, okay, now we want to find people that look, act, and behave just like this that don't do business with me. And that can be nationwide, that can be in specific geographical areas. One thing that we do if we do like events where we don't want the same people coming to like a sales event where we're trying to sell something, we'll say, now in addition to this, we don't want any of these people to see the ad. Does that make sense? So now our existing customers aren't going to see the ad because we're going to have an offer attached to it, and we don't want to piss everybody off, right? And so that way we can do that. So then a lot of times we'll run that for X amount of time until we run out of momentum, and then we'll turn it on and then market towards our existing customers, right? So that's just one example of what we can do. And even with that, we can go draw little circles all over the map. So say there's specific neighborhoods that you know you draw from, or towns, if you're in an suburban area, rural area, right? Where we can say, these little areas we want to find people that live, if you know there's an older retirement age people live in this part of town, then we can go in and target that, right? Specifically for what we're trying to do. Any questions on that? Okay. So Bob Ross, I've tried to figure out, they do like Halloween costumes for Bob Ross, and I think I'm going to be Bob Ross this year. But so ad creation, like who feels like they struggle to create good quality ads or good quality posts on Facebook, right? Okay. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And what we have found realistically is like easy and authentic is better. So like most of the stuff that we do with dealers is shot on an iPhone or a phone, right? With just like a little tripod. And that's what we do 90% of the time. We have them just going somewhere where it's quiet, like in the come in morning or stay a little later. And a lot of it's just authentic. Like that's because a lot of the times they have relationships with you guys as shop owners, right? Like you're kind of the queen bee and everybody's following you. So they want to see you guys and they want to interact with you. And so that works really well. Canva is a really good tool. Who uses Canva? Canva is a great tool to use for ads and stuff like that. By far, videos are the best. By far the best. But once again, this comes into like strategizing. So what we try to do is we sit down at the first of every month and we want to know what's going on, right? Like what do we have going on? What are we going to? What are we supporting? Are we doing a sell? Are we doing this? Or we got this holiday coming up, or this is happening. And then at that point, we'll plan out what we're going to be doing for the next month, the next 2 months. And then we get our creative so that we're not getting behind. And then we get everything set up and ready to go. But videos are great. And then once again, you can utilize video on YouTube and things like that. So any questions on ad creation?
What is long copy? What does that mean?
Okay, good question. I'm glad you asked that. So have anybody ever clicked on an ad and it's like just scroll for days? Has anyone ever seen that? That's long copy, where you just have like a giant list of content like all the way down. And people use it on Facebook and Instagram all the time for sales, mainly on Facebook. It's just long copy. And so sometimes we'll do different types of ads to see which one converts best, right? Like we're running an ad right now to find sewing machine dealers that we want to work with, and we have a video and a long form ad, right? And then we just see which one is happening. In fact, Facebook has a new program they're doing now with like AI to where you create multiple ads, like 3 different videos, 3 different, you know what I'm talking about? And then Facebook will go out and combine them and then run it by itself and then figure out what the best combination is, right, to do. And then you just run it consistently the whole time, and it will like eventually figure out, because we even see it when we run ads. Like usually we'll start an ad campaign and like the first week it's just terrible, right? Like I don't know, like I don't know who signed up. It's obviously not human. But then as it starts running, we start getting better and better ads, right? Because it starts to figure it out, algorithms and stuff like that. So, but no, that's a good question. So Ads Manager versus Post, we kind of already touched base on this. Boosting is very limited. It limits the amount of text you can use. You can't choose audiences easily. You can't choose campaign objectives. So a lot of times is like right now that's really popular is for, you know, let's say you have a Facebook account, but you don't have a lot of followers, right? Like we don't have an audience. So we're doing a lot of where we'll just doing giveaways for free. Like it's just like someone will use co-op or they'll buy a machine. Like, hey, we're going to give away this $300 sewing machine, and we'll do one every month. And all you have to do is just enter with an email. Does that make sense? And so now we're just capturing all these emails, and then we're using those emails to go out and run campaigns and do different things like that. So we're just looking at a cost leader loss, right? We're buying something and we're offering it, and we're just getting. So that's another thing is we have to look at is what is the objective of the ad campaign that we're trying to do, right? And so once you understand the objective, then that's how you set the ads up to make sure that they're running effectively. So another thing is with the video views, we can go in and target like people who watched certain amounts of it, people who watched half of it, right, or the more than 3 seconds of it. There are so many different options when you're running in Ads Manager. But like I said, it's just becoming educated. It's just understanding how this works, and unfortunately, it's very hard to learn how to do correctly. But once you learn how to do it correctly, it's just fine being, what time is it? Just so I know I'm not going over. 11:08? Okay. And so, but it's just understanding how to do it, right? And that's the big key. It's just, you know, so I kind of wrap up here and then I'll ask for any questions. But the first thing is when I talk with people is, and I've been out here for years, right? And I have the same people I'll see at these shows, and they'll come up to me and they'll be like, man, and I'll teach a class, and they all come, the same people. I've seen them like 6 years in a row. And they'll be like, man, I am going to do something, right? Like, I'm going to hire some. And then I see them a year later, and it's like, hey, did you ever? And they still don't have a Facebook pixel, right? Like a year later, still don't have a Facebook pixel. A year later, we still don't have a Facebook pixel. And it's just understanding, like, sitting down and deciding, like, what you as store and shop owners want to do. Does that make sense? And it's like, and if you follow it, it works. Like, I mean, if you put a Facebook pixel, you run a campaign, you be good about what you're doing, you be smart about what you're doing. Because a lot of the times when I first started working in this industry, I was like, man, help me find the people that struggle and I'll help them be better. And then I learned, like, no, there's a reason they're struggling, right? It's not marketing, it's something else. And then I'm like, well, let me find the people who are really good and then let me help them be better. Because all they need is more at-bats, right? You just need more at-bats. Just up to plate more. And then the more times you're up to the base, the more times you swing, the more times you get on base, the more times you score, right? And it's the same with this. And so, I mean, if you take one thing away from what we talked about today is, you know, get serious with your website, clean it up, make sure it looks good, make sure your pixel's installed, set up a strategy and a plan for Facebook, and then at the end of every month, or the first of every month, put a plan together, right? Like, put a plan together and look at what you sell and what works well, and then say, okay, well, these work really well and I sell a lot of these. How do I sell more, right? Like, okay, so here's the people I'm selling to. I know there's millions of them on Facebook. How do I find them, right? And so then that's the process, right? And it's just understanding, learning, educating, but most importantly, executing and doing it. Because when we had, like, COVID happened, I mean, we were wondering, like, if we're going to be out of business, probably like you guys, right? Like, are we even going to be around? And it was the ones that were like, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to do it, they murdered it, right? And then the ones that, like, panicked and circled the wagons, they're still where they were 5 years ago. And I have dealers that have done the same amount of sales for like 12 years in a row. It's like, how do you do that? You know, like 12 years in a row, you haven't made any progress, right? And so it's just understanding what you want to do, how you want to do it, and just in doing it. But that's my, does anybody have any questions before I finish up? Oh.
So you talked about the pixels. Is it just Facebook, or is it your website, or both?
So once you install the Facebook pixel on your website, then it automatically is with you can, because you're running the ads on Instagram too, so it pulls the same data. So it's just
So
you
it's
put
on
it
your
on
website.
Yeah. So then also the thing is though with the pixel is not only can we track the behavior on your website, we pull their behavior on your Facebook page, right? Yes. So let's say we have a certain video where we were highlighting a product that we know we sell well, then we can go back and be like, hey, let's run an ad campaign to target the video that we did, that we sold a bunch, and let's just run that ad as again, right? Like just do it again and do a different targeting and different marketing in different areas and go from there. But, okay.
I just started with comments sold.
Comment sold's huge. We murder it with comment sold. We kill it with comment sold. So,
And that's all connected to.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I have to say, I started in September. It took a while, but
Yeah.
we're finally seeing results.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all around the United States
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
So,
it works.
all right.
Perfect. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Very informative.
Thank you.